GZM Shows and the creators of 6 Minutes are rolling out their newest audio adventure with the podcast Discovering Dad. A cautious single dad with a secret past and his rebellious kids embark on a thrilling quest complete with hidden treasure, villains, and a family curse. New episodes of Discovering Dad roll out weekly starting June 11th on Apple Podcasts. Follow the show so you never miss an episode, or listen early and ad-free as a GZM Show subscriber. Go to gzmshows.com to learn more.
Contained herein are the heresies of Radolf Buntwine, erstwhile monk turned traveling medical investigator. Join me as I study the secrets of the divine plagues and uncover the blasphemous truth that ours is not a loving God, and we are not its favored children. The heresies of Radolf Buntwine, wherever podcasts are available.
Hey everybody, I'm Mike Reno from Loverboy.
Hi, this is Joe Satriani.
Hey, I am Brandy Rhodes.
Hey, I'm UFC fighter CB Dollaway.
Clay Milliken, driver of the Parts Plus, Great Clips, Top Fuel Dragster.
What's up, world? This is your favorite comic, Tony Rock.
Hey guys, this is Kendra Sunderland, Vixen Angel of the Year.
Hey, this is Jimmy Chamberlain.
Hey, it's your boy J-Rock from Sunnyvale Trailer Park. You know, I'm and you listen to my boy T-Biscuit on the Toddcast podcast. I'm out like I sold something.
The Toddcast podcast
is powered by The Pint, Vancouver's favorite sports bar at 455 Abbott Street and online at vancouver.thepint.ca.
Now, here's your host, Todd Hancock.
Right out of the gate, we want to give big props to Nate and the crew at The Pint in Vancouver, longtime supporters of the podcast. As you know, they've sponsored a handful of times over the years, and we're quite pumped that this time around they've decided to become title sponsor. The Toddcast is powered by, of course, The Pint, the place for pregame Canucks. If you're going to the game, BC Lions games, UFC fights. Speaking of, if you grew up a Vancouver Canucks fan, chances are you listened to Sportstalk with Dan Russell after every game, or almost every game, or at least that was the game plan for me and all of my close buddies. He would always have like the best guests and like the best thoughts post-game, a real knowledge of the sport. You could argue that Sportstalk was the best sports show of its day. Hell, you could probably even stack it up to shows present day. 30 years of broadcasting, close to 8,000 shows. And the new book, Pleasant Good Evening, a memoir, is out now, a #1 bestseller. Host and author Dan Russell is a guest this week.
People could say I'm meticulous. I was probably a bit of a geek that way, keeping all those notes, but you know, I didn't just keep the diary. I kept a journal of all my comings and goings for 20, 25 years. Wow. And then I had hundreds of hours of audio tape. But as for the diaries, they were really helpful in putting the book together because you could go back and it would just trigger a thought, a mind, a memory. And I could go back and look at 1992 and I could choose the month of February and know on February 10th which guest was in what hour, the first hour, the second, the third. Were they live? Were they in studio? Was it a pre-tape? Did we take calls? What was the open phones about? Yeah, I kept a real thorough diary.
I mean, isn't that incredible? 8,000 shows, kept a diary of most of them. In contrast, I did about 15 years of radio in Vancouver. I have nothing to show for it. Maybe like a handful of things. Not very much indeed. Now, joining Sports Talk host Dan Russell on this week's podcast, matchmaker and dating coach Katy Clark. Old school standards with new school style.
I'm available for my clients 24, almost 7, because dating is 24, almost 7. It's relationship building. And so that's really, I think, one of the biggest important things. Yeah. To have a good matchmaker. And, I hate to say this too, but you should have a hot matchmaker because
of course,
well, there's a lot of matchmakers that I look at and I'm like, really? Because first off, I attract beautiful women, good looking men, successful, quality. So those kind of, you attract what you are is what I always say. And I always think if I were going to go get my hair cut somewhere and the woman had terrible hair, why would I get my hair cut there? So if your matchmaker is good looking and she's badass, you should, probably hire her.
Katy was a lot of fun. You'll definitely want to follow her on social media. We'll pass the details on in just a sec. And we jumped at the chance to talk to this week's musical guest. You'll hear from them in just a minute. Coming up shortly, maybe 10:15, in Stop Me If You've Heard This Before, retired BC Lions quarterback Travis Lulay breaks down the NFL, the CFL, and you might be surprised at which league he says is harder to play in. That is powered by our friends at Puff. Get 20% off regularly priced cannabis accessories and apparel with the code TODCAST in-store and online at puff.ca. First, our first guest of three, this week's musical guest, Gwar singer Blothar. Brought to you by Pineapple Sound, good friends with a recording and mixing studio in Langley since 2013. They're coming up on 10 years. Now, they welcome podcasts above and beyond, of course, bands, voiceover actors, and a lot more. Anything you can do in a recording studio. In fact, they will rent out the entire facility to you if that's your thing. Dave would be the person to talk to. Check him out through pineapplesound.com. Can you believe that Gwar has been around since 1984? If you're not super familiar with the band, the term shock rock, it often comes up when you're describing their music, their stage show, their overall presence. There's a fair amount of political and social satire. Think elaborate stage shows as well, like a mix of, like sci-fi, horror, graphic violence. If you're in the audience, put it this way, one of their shows, at Gwar shows, expect to get sprayed with fake blood, urine, semen. Yeah, they've been a recording band for over 35 years with their new album, their 15th. It's out now, called The New Dark Ages. At this point in the game, since the death of their lead singer Dave Brocky back in 2014, they continue to soldier on without any of its founding members. Blothar has taken over, as mentioned. He's the vocalist now for the band, and he talked about the creativity within during the COVID years.
Yeah. Well, we, it slowed things down, and it made us focus on videos and other ways to, excuse me. Oh my goodness.
Bless you. I
have no idea what happened. Too much cocaine.
Never had that happen to me before.
Never had it happen. It was pretty much a chance for us to, since we weren't focusing on live shows, we worked on video stuff. We worked on some comic content and worked on getting some deals worked out, stuff like that. So we took the time to, as I think a lot of rock bands did, to regroup and it's so rare that you have that much time without being on the road, we were able to get some things done.
Really, though, you shouldn't find it much of a surprise that Gwar's creativity wasn't stifled during the pandemic. They have it in spades and some incredible accolades when you look at their career as a whole. 24 million streams, over 15 million video views. They're always added to really cool Spotify playlists. You've seen them in the spotlight of Blabbermouth, Metal Sucks, Rolling Stone, NME. They're closing in on 1 million physical albums sold. Because it's so prevalent, we asked Blothar, how important is the concept of sex and violence to the band?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Sexy, violent satire only gets you so far. Yeah. From the beginning, I think the sexy violence, I'm probably phrasing that wrong. The sexy violence came after the concept, to be honest with you. That was something that grew out of our puerile senses of humor. It was quite natural once we undertook the project to just, Gwar is as rooted as it is in comics. It's also rooted in science fiction and in horror movies. And just an interest in these kinds of things.
And when you look back, since Gwar formed, they have 13 studio albums. They've got a couple live albums. They've been nominated for 2 Grammy Awards. They have a cult-like following. And as we tend to do, we get into it with Blothar. He talks about the NHL playoffs. He lives in Florida, loves watching My 600-Pound Life. He shared a story about seeing The Pretenders and The Alarm. It was a funny one, in concert. He talked about the music that was in his world as a kid growing up.
You know, at the Slave Pit, we used to have a lot of music going on, which is the studio that, Gwar's studio. I think as far as playing rock and roll, hardcore punk was definitely something that I was always interested in. But then, for Gwar as a unit, there was an older set of artists that were working on the project, and those guys always listened to Jesus Christ Superstar and Kiss and Alice Cooper and the Tubes. Any band that had a theatrical presentation, even Parliament, right? That they were, Devo would be a great example. Bands that had these sort of a story and a culture behind them and an entire presentation. Certainly one thing we were reacting to, I think, was rock bands that were just standing there playing their music. And of course, they're back to that now. It's extremely boring to go to a rock concert. I would not, unless you're just hanging on, it's music that you absolutely love, then what is there to look at? It's a bunch of preening egomaniacs strutting around on stage playing mediocre bullshit. So we wanted to do something different.
I think it's pretty cool to get a little bit of a backstory on the bands that you like. And we talked with Gwar singer Blothar for about 20, 25 minutes, something like that. You can hear it now. You can see it as well. iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud. Again, see it on YouTube on our channel there. All the interviews that we do, they're posted up at Toddcast Podcast. And we talked a lot about their new album, The New Dark Ages. Punk, Kiss, Devo, and Alice Cooper came up. So did a near-death story involving his touring van. Dude was like so close. The superpower of blind rage, sci-fi and horror inspiration, comic books, and his love of sport.
Well, I'm big and I'm a sports fan. So yes, living in Sarasota, we have Grapefruit League football, Grapefruit League baseball, excuse me, Grapefruit football. That sounds a little obscene. I like hockey. I like, go Bolts, man. I like, yeah.
Do you think that they are going to take it for a third time?
I hope so. It's not like, it does feel wrong even to me as a resident of Southern Florida, but I'm not a native, obviously. I'm from the world of mist.
Right. You're a different planet, man. Different world.
Right. But like many fat old people, I now live in Florida. And so I can say that, of course it feels wrong to have a team from Southern Florida playing against a legendary Canadian hockey team.
And they just tied it up, didn't they? I think they just evened it up 2 games apiece.
That's right. Yep. So, but I do enjoy going to a hockey game. That's a lot of fun. I like screaming out things, learning personal things about the players, and then saying inappropriate things about them where they can hear them on the ice to try and get them upset. Like if they're an alcoholic or if they beat their wife or something. That's the funnest thing about hockey, is that you could scream at these twits and make them really angry and break their concentration.
Musical guests of the Toddcast Podcast are powered by Pineapple Sound, providing recording and mixing services for a wide range of artists and genres since 2013. Check them out at pineapplesound.com.
can see it in her eyes, the blue, the red, and the white. But I'm a lover, not a fighter. It's never been my style. I don't just get involved with others unless it really feels worthwhile. And if you take me for granted, don't be surprised if I don't stay. If you don't reach out to stop me, you'll see me walk away. It's never been my style. I don't just get involved with others, no. And if you take me for granted, don't be surprised if I don't stay. If you don't reach out to stop me, you'll see me walk away. I'll leave you I'll leave you I'll leave you
The Toddcast podcast is powered by Milano Coffee, bringing you the finest espresso and coffee concepts in the world. Online at milanocoffee.ca. And now, stop me if you've heard this before on the Toddcast podcast.
If you follow football, or more specifically the CFL, you'll know that retired quarterback Travis Lulay played 10 seasons with the BC Lions. From 2009 through 2018, he was the CFL's most outstanding player in 2011, was named the most valuable player at the 2011 Grey Cup as well. Prior to the Lions, he played in the NFL with the Seahawks, the Saints, retiring from pro football in February 2019. And when Travis was a guest, which was only a few months after his retirement, we talked about, of course, all things football, as you would expect. From his first memory of the sport to realizing true potential, retired Lions quarterback Mike Riley came up. So did first concerts. We talked about Toby Keith. He shared a near-death story from back when he was a teenager. We talked about the shows that he was binge-watching at the time. Legalized weed came up. The superpower of bullet speed, aliens, and Earth. And stop me if you've heard this before. Travis broke down the NFL and the CFL and how Canadian football is probably the harder of the two to play.
Yeah, I'll say this. Yeah, I mean, just playing quarterback, I can tell you that, man. It's more complex. There's 12 guys. There's so much more pre-snap motion. I say this often. You make a lot more of the decisions before the snap of the football in the NFL than you do in the CFL, because there's so much that happens just prior to the snap in the CFL that is different than the NFL. It just is by the rules. It's more of a static game. You generally get a better look at defenses. When I'm watching an NFL game and I'm hearing Tony Romo call half of the plays out. You know, he's like, oh, they're going to throw it to this guy here. And, well, you can see that in the NFL game. And, you know, someone had asked me, because I've done a little broadcast work, right, and, could potentially pursue that at some point. But people say, would you be able to call it out like Tony? And I said, well, frankly, no. You'd be guessing in the CFL. There's just more options. There's more, more different looks that happen.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there just is. There's extra guys. You got another guy running around. There's extra guy on defense. You just can't see. It's not as cut and dry. And, obviously NFL teams are very good at disguising defenses too. But just in general, it just is. It's a different game. You got to be managed differently. You got to take chances more wisely, or you got to be more choosy about it, because you only have three downs to make it first, right?
Downs,
so it's just entirely different. The kicking game's so incredibly important, because it is harder to sustain long drives because of the nature of it being a 3-down game. Some of the rules do cater to the offense, obviously more motion, a little bit more space on the offensive line, those types of things do, but the one less down is more than an equalizer, right?
Stop me if you've heard this before. On the Toddcast podcast is brought to you by Puff, purveyors of quality cannabis accessories since 1995. Use promo code TODCAST and get 20% off all regularly priced accessories and apparel, in-store and online at puff.ca.
I've heard this is how we go. And I guess I'm no different, but I'm no different, and now I know. Yeah, 'cause I'm okay always. Calling on you. I'm calling on you, loving and loving on you, loving, yeah. Calling on you, I'm calling on you, loving on you, loving, yeah. Well, I've heard this is what we do. And I think now I feel it. Well, I feel it because of you. Yeah, and I'm okay always. Calling on you. I'm calling on you. Loving on you. Yeah. Calling on you. Oh, I'm calling on you. Loving on you. To think, and so did I. What we had would go right, 'cause that's how you've seen it go. Whoa. Baby, not for us, I know. Calling on you. I'm calling on you.
has got to be one of my favorite, I mean, certainly top 10, maybe top 5 favorite songs of the last couple of years. His name is Ivan Hartle, and I love that one. Lovin' On Ya, and you're only a few days away from a great show. He's got a show coming up at the Gilton Company in Gastown this Saturday, June 18th. You can catch him there. It's an early show, by the way. It's 7 p.m. for that. I saw him at the Biltmore right before the pandemic, and it was straight up just a magical night, so try to be there for that. Played you Spendo, and that was their song called Fighter. And next month at the Red Room, they're headlining. That's a Saturday, July 9th. That's another early show, by the way. This is another 7 o'clock start. Don't you just love that there's more and more shows being announced? Another killer band with Spendo, too. They've played a couple shows for the podcast over the years, and absolutely amazing. Got to support the local talent. Of course, coming up in just a few minutes in Listen to This, as we do every podcast, Steel Panther drummer Sticks It In Ya. He's talking about bowing down at the altar of Led Zeppelin's John Bonham. Dude's funny, man. It's powered by Tedco RV Supplies in Langley, RV Service and Repair, ICBC accredited. Check, check, check. You can find them online, Facebook, and on Twitter at Tedco RV Supplies. First, let's do this. The second of 3 Toddcast guests this week, our sporting guest, Sports Talk host Dan Russell. That is powered by our friends at Capit Chilliwack, providing the best quality products and services for you and your truck. Tules, tonneau covers, rooftop tents, camping chairs, and a lot more. Check them out in Chilliwack or online at facebook.com/Chilliwack Capit. As mentioned off the top, Sports Talk host Dan Russell, arguably the best to ever do it. He is a legendary Canadian sports broadcaster. 30 years of doing it. 8,000 shows. Recently wrote the best-selling Pleasant Good Evening, a memoir, My 30 Wild and Turbulent Years of Sports Talk.
Yeah, I actually, years ago, decided my kids were so young, I better jot some stuff down. And then I typed like a maniac one summer, and it was a very rough copy, but I had chapters and I put things down and thought, okay, well, one day I might get back to it. And I used to tease on the air, something would come up and somebody would ask me, an in-depth question about maybe the behind the scenes stuff. And I said, well, I'll save that for the book one day. I'll put that in my book. And I was kind of tongue in cheek, but the back of my mind thought, well, maybe I'll do that. And then, as you said, Todd, the COVID hit and everybody was looking for a COVID project. And I thought, okay, here it is. I got a brand new laptop. I've got all my notes. I've got my rough copy from years ago. Let's go for it.
Nice. And how much editing did you have to do to write the book? I would imagine there's probably twice as many stories as you've included.
That's a great point. When I did the first or early drafts, the book came in probably at about 130,000 words, I'm sorry to say. I got it under 100,000 for the manuscript. So there's 30,000 edited words right there. Stories that I thought could make the book, but they're, you just don't want it to be War and Peace. And so therefore you get it out of there. But, it's just a lot of editing, a lot of being choosy. Even within the manuscript, you cut down on the stories a lot just to keep it moving. It
is funny to think, well, not funny, but there is a silver lining to COVID, to the pandemic, after losing 2 years of your life. We've talked about this on past podcasts many times over. It's the content. It's all the things that were produced during that time, whether it was movies or new music, new books. As a longtime fan of Dan Russell's work, it was very cool to get into it with him. Beyond sport, we talk about like binge watching Better Call Saul, Ozark, Seinfeld. We talked about how he loved and he was hanging out with Bobby Orr and interviewing the man. Seeing Peter Frampton in concert came up, and he talked about his favorite station that he worked for.
My favorite probably was Rock 101 CFMI. Now, people might find that a little surprising. It was groundbreaking, too. The show itself was groundbreaking in 1984. But what people don't talk about very much is how groundbreaking it was in 1989 when Sports Talk became the first regular Monday through Friday talk show in Canada to be on the FM airwaves. FM back then was only, as you know, Todd, so well, FM was for music. Sure. AM was for talk. And so we went to FM. That was groundbreaking, but the freedom was great. I mean, we were left to our own devices. Well, we always were through the 30 years, but there was no news breaks like there were at all the other radio stations. So we could keep the momentum going through the top of the hour. And it was just a lot of fun. And, that's when the Canucks went to the Stanley Cup final in '94. So that coincides with that. And there's a lot of great memories. I really enjoyed my time. I liked a lot of the stations, but that one was my favorite.
And when you look back, you did hear Dan Russell on a lot of radio stations in Vancouver. CIL, CJOR, CKWX, CFMI, as he just mentioned, CKNW, CKST. And when you hear why Rock 101 was his favorite, it kind of makes sense. A talk show on FM? What? Absolutely, when you're that good of a talk show. The Full Talk with Dan is 33 minutes long. You can hear it, you can see it. We did it on Zoom, on all of our social media platforms, all at Toddcast Podcast, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube. How could we not talk about McDavid and the Oilers? He gushed about his favorite sports broadcaster, Jim Robson. He talked about how the Brian Burke segment became a regular thing for his show. Big band, 70s music, and rap all came up. So did a near-death story driving between Calgary and Medicine Hat. We talked about family. We talked about the 94 Canucks and Pavel Bure.
I like the 94 team, but I know that's not your question.
Yeah.
Well, that 94 team was something.
They sure were. They were the peak of the franchise to this moment. I mean, it's just too difficult to answer that question. I don't want to skirt it, but it's too difficult because the eras change. That the way the hockey's played, it changes, and of course, Pavel Bure is the greatest player that ever put on a Canuck uniform in terms of sheer talent. But Trevor Linden and Stan Smeel had the biggest heart that you could ever have. I mean, the ingenuity of the Sedin twins was amazing. It was just off the charts amazing. So, the goaltending of McLean in '94, Brodeur in '82, or Luongo in 2011. I mean, it's just all, just too difficult to answer. But, but there's no Stanley Cup banner up there. It's over 50 years. And how long is the wait going to be? And it gets tougher every year because there's now 32 teams in the National Hockey League.
Yeah. Interesting that you brought up Bure. When I mentioned, Dan, that you're going to be on the podcast, of course, I got a bunch of your fans wanted to ask you questions. And Mike says, who is the best Canuck of all time, and why is it Pavel Bure?
Way to go, Mike. You got it.
Nailed it.
I mean, the first game that all of us who were old enough to remember, either watching on TV or being, as I was, in the Pacific Coliseum, was just, it was like he took the puck, and people watching or listening to you, they know what this is. I mean, it was about second period. He had a couple of chances around the net before, but in the second period, he took that puck from inside the line, his own blue line, and roared to the other end. And there was a buzz that I had, and I've followed the Canucks. I was the perfect age when they came in. So I have the entire franchise in my head, the history. So I was 10 years old in 1970. I had never seen, and nobody had ever felt that buzz in the Coliseum, and he did not score on that goal, on that play, but there was a buzz like, wow, we have a player here. We have a Bobby Orr type. We have a Guy Lafleur type. We have a Mary, whoever it is. I mean, I'm not saying he's those, but the collective we in Vancouver had never seen a player like that. And that one rush from inside his own line to the Winnipeg Jets goal crease or thereabouts, I think was so memorable because it was such a first, and it set the tone for what would happen the rest of the way. And of course, that culminated in Game 7 of round 1 in '94 when Jeff Brown feeds him that perfect pass, and he goes in double overtime. Is that double overtime or overtime? I'm trying to get my overtime straight. And he won the game in the series, and the Canucks were on their way. And a couple rounds later, they'd be playing Game 7 in the Stanley Cup final.
Toddcast Sporting Guest Visits are powered by Cap at Chilliwack. providing the best quality products and services for you and your truck. Online at facebook.com/chilliwackcapit. Nude Vodka Soda powers the Toddcast podcast. Sugar and sweetener free with just 100 calories and 0 carbs per serving. Visit them online at nudebeverages.com.
And now, listen to this on the Toddcast podcast.
Over the years, you've seen Steel Panther claw their way to world domination. What a fun band. In the early days, the 2000s, it was all about Hollywood's Sunset Strip, specifically the Viper Room. Dominating there, then they get invited to play some festivals all around the world. We're talking 50, 60,000 people as far as the eye could see, I guess you could say. Along the way, winning awards with Loudwire, Metal Hammer, they debuted #1 on Billboard's comedy album chart. Solid band, great musicians, genuinely good people. And when their drummer Stick Zadinia was a guest, he talked about the possibility of aliens visiting Earth. Playing at the Donington Festival came up, seeing Neil Diamond in concert. He talked about how he played D&D as a kid, the superpower of invisibility, Motley Crue's movie, working in studio with Nickelback's Chad Kroeger, Van Halen, Deadpool, and Styx talked about how Led Zeppelin's John Bonham led him down the path. Listen to this.
When I heard When the Levee Breaks for the first time, I just went, all right, well, sign me up. What do I, how do I do that?
Right.
And I've been trying ever since.
Just heavy, deep pocket.
That's the coolest fucking 8 bars in music to me.
Oh, I think it's sampled the most of any for rap or hip hop tracks. They sampled that specific.
Dude, that's like pregnancy groove.
You know, don't listen to that music for too long with your girlfriend near you.
I'm telling you, dude, you're gonna start paying child support.
Listen to This on the Toddcast podcast is brought to you by Tedco RV Supplies in Langley, an ICBC approved repair shop. Find them online at TedcoRVSuppliesInc.com.
Catching sunny skies, staring at the guys in the parking lot. Sipping sweet iced tea, reading magazines at my favorite spot. Music blaring loud, no one else around, just enjoy the peace. And I move my toes to the beat. I don't need anyone, so just leave me all on my own. I gave you what you see, but I saved the best for me. So just let me be. See the passers-by, catch a friendly smile in my neighborhood. Flip another page, waste the day away, chilling like I should. Yeah. Lovers holding hands, humming to a man, dig the melody. And I move my toes to the beat. Yeah, I don't need anyone, so just leave me all on my own. I gave you what you see, but baby, I saved the best for me. So just let me be. Just let me be. All on my own until he comes along. I don't need anyone. No, I don't. So just leave me all on my own. I gave you what you see, but baby, I saved the best for me. Yeah. I gave you what you see. Yeah, yeah. I saved the best for me.
really start digging around in Vancouver's excellent music scene, there is one of our jewels, no question. Her name is Emily Chambers, and I love that one. That one is called Just Let Me Be. And back-to-back weeks on the podcast, we're helping out push her show for the International Jazz Festival. You can see Emily on Saturday, July 2nd at Gilton Company in Gastown. Man, I love that venue. They are putting together some incredible shows. You heard Sleep Circle, and that was a bit of an older track for those guys called Consumed. They will be playing a show at Main Street Nightclub in Chilliwack next month. Not often you hear about Chilliwack shows. Saturday, July 16, Ever Real, Never Another are also on the bill. And of course, Sleep Circle will be headlining. That's a 7 o'clock start, 8 o'clock for the shows, and it's only $10 to get in. Now, speaking of live shows, you can find a small list of shows that are happening locally, like Vancouver and I guess now out in Chilliwack, with the indie scene at toddhancock.ca. If you're playing a show or you're going to check one out, if it's indie, let us know about it. We'll post it up at the website. We do, of course, have our own shows coming up very soon, next month. We don't have anything nailed down just yet, but the last Friday of the month, we're going to be doing shows, acoustic, a Q&A at Blue Light Studio in East Vancouver. So keep your ears to the ground for as far as the first local announcement with that. I think we're probably going to be getting it out within the next week or two. The indie scene, by the way, at the website is brought to you by Mystic Rhythms Rehearsal Studios. 40 plus years experience in the music industry. They're family owned and operated. You can find them online at mysticrhythms.ca. Okay, our final guest of this episode 277 is matchmaker and dating coach Katy Clark, this week's entertainment and lifestyle guest, powered by Canuck Auctions, Canada's largest memorabilia and collectibles auction house. It is freaking amazing. They should start using that as their hashtag. Hashtag freaking amazing. Collectibles and memorabilia through CanuckAuctions.com. Of course. Katy Clark is a luxury matchmaker and dating expert, and she's a lot of fun. Check out her Instagram account. Her network can put you in touch with tens of thousands of bachelors, bachelorettes. She runs Dating with Katy, talks about how social media has changed dating, the thrill of the chase and playing the game.
Oh, social media on top of dating apps has changed the game. This idea and picture of, meet organically. I love when people tell me that. I'm like, okay, you're living in La La Land. And I literally live in La La Land. There's too much of La La going on. But social media has created this speed bump. And I call it a speed bump because some people take it quickly. Some people slow down for it. But it creates this illusion sometimes and almost this discouragement in dating because people will check out people's social media. And I've done reels on this, like women are looking at a man's social media. As a matter of fact, I encourage people not to be on social media, men especially. And if you are for business purposes or just for family, but if you're following thousands of women and they're half naked, no woman is secure with that. And if they say they are, that's okay. But then at the same time, I hear men complain about women's social media, that they look selfish, selfies all by themselves. And they think to themselves, is this the woman I'm going to marry? And their social media turns off the whole thing and boom, everyone's like done. They quit. They jump ship really fast because of social media.
It is crazy, right? Like I couldn't even imagine having to get back into the dating scene. Oh my God. Social media. What a nightmare. The full talk with Katy is 36 minutes long. You can see it. You can hear it. Another Zoom chat at our iTunes and Spotify, SoundCloud. Of course, our YouTube channel has all of the videos for every interview that we do. Now, the LA Times calls Katy the Jane of all trades. You've seen Katy on the Food Network star, In Shape magazine, America's 50th hottest trainers. She's held the title of Mrs. Long Beach. We had a really good talk. She gave her thoughts on whether you'd even want to get out of the friend zone. The music of the Beatles, Snoop Dogg, and Prince came up. She shared a near-death story where she fell asleep at the wheel. We talked about the shows that she's been binge-watching, too.
I'm busy with work. I think coming back from Peru, I was in Peru. I can say this though, in Peru, I watched 14 Peaks. Have you seen that?
No.
It's a documentary. Talk about fear. So I don't like heights, And I did Huayna Picchu, Huayna Picchu. It's the mountain behind Machu Picchu. Like in the postcards, it's the big shark fin mountain. And so just last week we did that, and it's straight down. They have the stairs of death, and I hate heights. I hate them. And I am a cursor. Like I will drop the F-bomb the whole time. It's like I'm channeling my inner Billy Goat, but dropping F-bombs. For some reason, I just feel more badass. And so it was actually cloudy the day that we did it, which was good because the minute the clouds went away, I was like, oh my gosh. But watching 14 Peaks, it's a phenomenal documentary of a guy who did 14 of the 8,000 meter peaks in 7 months.
Shit. In 7 months.
In 7 months. And he's from Nepal. And I used to live in China. I've been to Tibet. My kids have been to Nepal. Like, I'm just amazed by the tenacity of these cultures. I mean, they're the Sherpas and they don't get any of the glory. All these guys going to the top, like, oh, I made it
over and over again. And,
bro, without that guy, you wouldn't have made it.
Yeah. You know, I had a guy named Brian Dickinson.
Okay.
On the show, and he climbed Mount Everest, and on the descent went snowblind. Like couldn't see, like basically blind from the brightness of the snow and everything. It impacted his eyes so bad that he couldn't see, and he descended Mount Everest blind.
Well, was he in a belay? Like, I mean, come on.
No, by himself, like straight up by himself. Yeah.
So watch 14 Peaks because you'll see the traffic for Mount Everest is like LA traffic. The line to get to the top is just people. It was like, what is that? So when people go to K2 and the other, you see how much harder it is because it's not like a line of people that are doing it constantly. So watch that. It's a great one. And I will say, I love Downton Abbey. Love it. Cheesy. Even my 16-year-old son loved it. And Emily in Paris. I try to keep things PG in my house because I don't ever want to look away and have kids see, like just try to. I tried to watch Ozarks, too dark. I don't like seeing unhappy families because it makes me sad.
Yeah.
Cranky teenagers and messed up parents. And I'm like, you know what? It's true, but it doesn't have to be like that. So I don't watch that kind of stuff, but
I guess I kind of feel bad because we let our kids at like 7 and 9 watch the entire Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, maybe, maybe now thinking, possibly. As we always do, we went a little bit further with Katy than what she's known for. We know her from working at Sync Matchmaking for about a decade now. She's super fun. She's super successful, loves helping out people and helping them find healthy relationships. We, of course, know her from her courses as well. How to be the best first date he's ever had, Fashion Boot Camp, 7 Steps to Sexy. But we also talked about vacationing in Cancun and Tuscany, talking about seeing New Kids on the Block and R. Kelly back in the day. The value of friends came up, so did dating rules. We talked about family life, the biggest mistake that people make during dating.
For ladies, I have 4 things that they should be looking for, and I'm really ardent about this, okay? So the number one thing that every woman should be looking for is his effort. And women will let chemistry lead the way. Well, there was no chemistry, but his effort was amazing. And I always say, you could have chemistry with a 20-year-old boy. Okay. But at the end of the day, he's not going to show up for you. Like we're all in a stage. My clients are all typically 35 and up in a stage where we're looking for a life partner who's going to, and life is not always going to be easy. Like I'm all about the trips and the fun, but something's going to hit the fan at some point.
Sure.
Not if, but when. And so I really think women need to be watching his effort. Effort is everything, guys, everything. Number 2, are you laughing together? That's on both sides. Are you having fun? Is it fun with this person? I say relationships are work, but they shouldn't be hard. There's a difference between that. Now, again, I'm not talking about a cancer situation. That's hard. That's grit. But when you're with somebody, you should be working at making it a good relationship and being creative and fun and investing in them. So are you guys laughing together? Number 3 for ladies, and again, for both, but reality. Does his life work with your life? Does your life work with his? Do you like his kids? Does he like your kids? Kids are a big one. I'm sorry, but never minimize your kids and their feelings for a guy or a woman ever.
Sure.
It's come before like dating. And then on top of that, number 4 is chemistry. So ladies, chemistry is your last one. I've seen women just deal with douchebags for years because, well, Katie, the sex was so great. And then what?
Come on.
And then when your pipes burst, he didn't show up. I know, but he was busy. No, he wasn't, because my man would have shown up. So for women, those are the 4 things that I really, really stress. And I hear this a lot. Well, but there was just no chemistry, Katie. I'm like, it was a first date. Go on 3 dates. Now for guys, I have to say, you men are so much simpler. You're really easy. You're not as picky. I love working with men. I do feel like I understand the mind of a man. You're visual. When guys are like, well, I'm looking for a pretty woman. I'm like, I get it. I love it. I want you to have that. And I do believe men should be looking for these 2 things. And ladies, listen up, because this is truth and you can verify. Is she fit and is she fun? Now I use those 2 words because alliteration and they match the 2 F's.
Well, you got to throw in a third then. Fit, fun, and foxy.
Foxy. Oh, I like that. It's so funny. There's certain words that people
Should
get.
write that down.
I do. I write everything down.
Love it.
Well, people get so offended nowadays. I use the word like, I hope your man is teachable. And oh my God, every man was so offended. I'm like, what is wrong with teachable? Whatever. But let's be honest, like every man likes the other F words too,
Yes.
Just fuck them and feed them. I mean, let's be honest. Yeah. So my point in being fit and fun, and everyone's like, well, I'm not skinny like you, Katie. That's not the point. Being fit means being healthy. Men really value a woman who keeps herself healthy, keeps herself presentable, pretty, fun. I mean, he likes a woman who shows up well next to him. Let's be honest. There's nothing wrong with that, because I want my man to be equally looking good.
Sure.
It's all about style and personal presentation. And then fun. A lot of us have been divorced. We've come from naggy ex-wives. A lot of men have come from naggy ex-wives, women who have taken their money, live in the champagne life, especially here in SoCal. And they're just looking for a woman who isn't going to be that. So a lot of women have old habits from their past marriage. I just had this with a client. She totally threw up on a great guy. She told him 7 things he was doing wrong. And I was like, oh, you can't do that. You can't do that to a man. And men, ladies, I'm going to say this 1,000 times over. They want to please you. They want to make you happy. Men are good men. Men are better than women at the end of the day. I almost feel like.
Toddcast Podcast entertainment guest visits are powered by Canuck Auctions, Canada's largest memorabilia and collectibles auction house. Find them online at canuckauctions.com.
little bit of shredding going on with that one. They are called Redwoods, and a new song for them, a new song for the podcast, something that everyone can relate to, hanging out and partying with your friends on the weekend. They just played at the Tradex in Abbotsford this past Saturday, and they're part of the Summerfest Country Music Festival, although they're not a country band, but I bet you that they did win the crowd over. Looking forward to next week. One Bad Son singer, Shane Connery Volk, is a guest.
First concert I went to was AC/DC Ball Breaker Tour in Saskatoon. Yeah, I was probably, maybe 13 or 14 and just like, forget it. It blew my mind. You know, like that's a great first show to go to, you know?
There's the bar.
Yeah. And I remember I've told this story lots before, and I feel bad because it sounds like I'm shitting on them, but I'm not. But my girlfriend at the time had tickets to Bush, or Bush X, as they were called in the day in Canada.
Right.
But I'm a rock kid, and I just saw this crazy AC/DC show. And again, coming from the farm where you're sort of like, we didn't see a lot of shows. There wasn't shows to go to, right? So it was my first show. So as like a 13-year-old, I'm like, that's what shows are. They're crazy. There's shit, you know, like at the Ball Breaker Tour, there was like the ball breaking through the stage and like the crazy, you know, and I mean, like the whole deal's nuts.
Yeah. And of course they're just like meticulous. They're like just freaking ninjas with their instruments.
100%. And like Brian Johnson's screaming his ass off. I'm like, okay, so that's what this is what shows are. This is what they all look like.
Right.
And then we went and saw Bush, and it's like totally not that.
Yeah, really great to talk and catch up with Shane, the singer from One Bad Son. Joining Shane next week, longtime friend of the podcast, he is kicking ass and taking names, actor Antonio Cupo. And speaking of kicking ass, UFC fighter Raquel Pennington on next week's podcast. It's a big one. Of course, big thanks to this week's guests as well. Gwar singer Blothar, thank you for jumping on a Zoom, and congrats on the new album. Look forward to getting semen sprayed at me at your next show. Things you would never expect to hear come out of my mouth for 1,000, Alex. Sports Talk host Dan Russell, congrats on your best-selling book and, of course, the sports radio career that would make literally anyone jealous. You are the man. Super honored that you would take some time to be a guest of this podcast. And matchmaker, dating coach Katy Clark, super fun to talk to you. Thank you so much for being a guest. And do keep us in the loop regarding your new podcast. If we can help out whatsoever, do not hesitate to drop a line anytime. And that's going to do it for this one. Episode 277 in the bag. My name is Todd Hancock. Thank you so much for hanging out, for being part of our lives. And if you like what you heard, please let your friends know about what we're doing as well. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube as well. Of course, that's where all of the videos that we do, we post them up on our YouTube channel. Comment and rate the podcast because that helps with search results. Again, find us with Toddcast Podcast, of course. Huge thanks to all of our wonderful sponsors. We straight up couldn't do it without their unwavering support. It's just absolutely amazing. Find links to all sponsor websites at toddhancock.ca. If you'd like to sponsor the podcast with your business, you can for as little as $10 a day. Contact info at the homepage. Maybe we'll have a beer, have a coffee, see what's up, jump Zoom, whatever it is. And if you help us find a sponsor, keep this in mind. We'll give you a commission based on the initial ad buy. All right. So if you know a business that gets outside of the box advertising, lots of social media love, let them know about us and we'll take it from there. Till next time, don't be an asshole. Nobody wants to be around that. Have fun, play hard, and most of all, believe in yourself.
You've been listening to the Toddcast Podcast, powered by The Pint, Vancouver's favorite sports bar at 455 Abbott Street, and online at vancouver.thepint.ca.
Talmor, Sheshin Marachi. Talmor is my home. My family have worked the land for generations. My gran says the island does not belong to us, but we belong to the island. And we must be ready, for a great evil is coming, and death follows with it.
Listen and subscribe to the latest season of Undertow, The Harrowing, a Storyglass production presented by Realm, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Contained herein are the heresies of Radolf Buntwine, erstwhile monk turned traveling medical investigator. Join me as I uncover the blasphemous truth of a plague-ridden world, that ours is not a loving God, and we are not its favored children. The Heresies of Radolf Buntwine, coming January 2nd, wherever podcasts are available.